Welcome back. My guest this morning is Ben Keckler. He's written some books to help children who are grieving from loss. Welcome, Mr. Keckler.
It's good to be with you today.
It's good to have you.
Thank you.
I want to mention first that you and your wife are owners of Eagle Creek Publications.
That's correct. Yeah.
And how did this get started, your publishing company, first of all?
Sure. It's a rather interesting story, actually. It started about 3 years ago. Actually this very week, when one of the grieving families that I was working with, the mom asked me to consider writing an obituary for her 16-year-old son who was dying. And as a result of writing that, I'd been working with the young man. His dad had died just a few months before that. And so here was a family going through some pretty deep loss. She said, "Could you write?" And so on my way home from my visit at their place, I'm going across Eagle Creek Reservoir, and I said, "God, what would you have me to write about Chris?" And as a result of doing that, an almost instantaneous answer came in the form of a poem. And the next morning, I couldn't help but ask, "God, what are you doing to me now?" And from that, a series of books has started to emerge, dealing with grief, loss, and transition for kids, because that was the answer I heard in my heart, you know. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Okay, and you mentioned you have a series of books that you've written for kids, and are they in that same you mentioned the poetic nature of the obituary you wrote. Are the books written in that same poetic?
Yeah, we've tried to make the books understandable for kids where they're at in their loss. And so we've taken rhyme and meter and put them together in a way that hopefully is attractive to kids. As I've been reading in public schools and other places in the last few months, I've been finding that kids do latch on to that rhythmic nature of poetry as they deal with the emotions that are dancing inside of them.
What are the age ranges that you aim at in ministering to these children?
That's a really good question, because, you know, one of the things about that is that when we first were watching these books be used, we discovered that they're really for kids from age 5 to 105. You know, because there's a child inside of each of us that's dancing and having our emotions bounce all over everywhere as we're trying to figure out what this whole transitional part of our lives is once we've had a loss. So the group that I read to a lot and the group that I try to relate to and target with children is actually between the grades 3 and 8. The books are written at about a 2nd grade level, because that's about the time when we start shutting down some of our emotions. Somebody's called us a bully or this, that, or the other thing, and all of a sudden we think, oh, we better not show that emotion. But yet, sad is an important emotion to show. So's mad, so's glad. They're all a part of our lives.
Do you, in your series of books, is that the reason they're in a series, so that you can address each emotion, like sadness, grief, loss, depression? Is each book centered on a certain emotion?
That's what we're working on, yes. Okay. There are going to be a number of books in this Express Yourself series. The first book, From Here to There, talks about how we sometimes have to deal with a whole plethora of emotions, and that it's okay to express yourself as you journey from here to there. The second book deals with the nature of unconditional love and how important that is to see us through the really tough travels in our life. And then the third book in the series that's published at this point is a book on loneliness and how loneliness relates to our lives.
Okay. Now we have some graphics of some of your books. What are some of those titles that you sent so our viewers can see? We have one up now, From Here to There, which you just mentioned.
From Here to There is one. There's another one called My Friend Matilda. My Friend Matilda is the one about unconditional love. It's the one about how you need a friend to see you through in the midst of your tough travels. And it's a story about a dog and his owner. Most people think it's going to be the dog that goes through the death and dying process, but actually the young man tells the story of his own death and dying process and how good a friend Matilda was to him. So that's how Matilda shapes up. And then there's Incredibly Lonely, That's Me. Incredibly Lonely, That's Me deals with another true story of kids I've worked with in my bereavement groups. And this is a story of a young girl who lost her sister and was dealing with how lonely that feeling was. And she invites the reader to come into that world and to experience what loneliness is about and the hope that she's found in the process.
Okay. Now, if our viewers would like to get hold of these books, how can they do that? How can they contact you?
Well, we can be contacted at www.eaglecreekpubs.com.
Oh, we do have that on the screen, by the way.
Okay. We also have our P.O. box is, I think it's also listed there for you. So that's some ways that you can get in touch with us. Our books are nationally distributed, and our distributor works through a variety of other distributors. And books can be found at Barnes & Noble, they can be found at Borders and other places, and if they're not there in stock, that only means that you have to say, could you order that, please?
Great. Well, it's been wonderful to have you on the program today, Mr. Keckler. Thank you so much for being my guest.
It's been great being with you.
Thank you.